What's good, y'all? Hope everybody's living well and staying blessed. It's your boy, Marcus B. As always, I'm here with the one and only Mr. Evan Simmons.
What's up?
Hope you're living well, big dog.
Yeah.
This is episode 14 of Holla at Your Boy, and today I sat down with a new friend of mine, Mr. Jacob Guerrero. He is a brand new teacher here in the area, so we naturally talked about bands, talked about education. We got into previous job experience, some things on politics, talked a lot about Cuba for somehow ended up there because we started talking about traveling. But anyways, it was a really good conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all those things on all the social medias. Keep updated with the latest episode, as well as subscribing, giving 5-star ratings, leaving comments, shouting out, whatever it is you want to do on YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever it is you're getting this content. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Peace. What's going on, brother?
What's up?
Yeah. I'm still getting used to that intro, man. It's groovy, right?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Shout out to Eric Puente again. Always showing love to him. But anyways, Doc, first off, introduce everybody to who you are, what you do, where you're from.
I am Jacob Guerrero. I'm the assistant band director at Lake Belton High School. It's a very brand new high school. It is actually still being built as we speak. It's a developing 4A program.
Yeah.
Just a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
I teach marching band, concert band, the jazz bands, not only at the school, but at the feeder middle schools as well. So that's
Really?
pretty dope, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that dang, that's a pretty stacked load for, I don't mean to sound this in any way, but for just an assistant band director. Like usually like as a percussion director, you know, you're used to like having that locked in as part of your job is like you're required to go to the middle school. Seldom do you hear that somebody has to go to the middle school as a band director. So
but
that's cool, man.
It's honestly the dream job though, because you get those kids just like from the percussion side, like they know who they're getting as soon as they move up to the high school.
For sure.
So you get that acclimation, and they know what they're expecting. You set the foundation and all the fundamentals from the get go. It's just smoother that way.
Oh, yeah. I get you, man. It's just I will be honest, it is more tiring. It is much more tiring, but it does feel better because, like you said, everybody knows who you are, and there's no like confusion. And the only time kids are confused by you is if they move in, and then they quickly just kind of assimilate to their surroundings. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm dealing with that right now. Got really lucky because I was supposed to have somewhat of, was it like 14 or 15? Yeah, 14 or 15 eighth grade percussionists. I had 14 or 15 eighth grade percussionists this year coming in to be freshmen, and I ended up with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So that was kind of, for the longevity of the program, I was like, man, that's taking a big hit.
COVID probably didn't help either.
Did not help at all. You know, I knew as with most directors, you kind of know that you're not going to keep everybody. You're going to try really hard to, but it's just a matter of the game. Mm-hmm. But I lost a lot of kids that were kind of on the fence. Had they shown up to marching band rehearsal that first day and kind of got a feel for it, they would have jumped in. But since you know we're taking 5 months off,
yeah,
hard to keep them motivated.
No, absolutely, and that's how it's been at this high school as well. We keep on getting kids that were supposed to show up weeks ago coming in, and they're like, oh, I guess I'm going to do this band thing. At first, I wasn't going to do it because of the coronavirus, but now I want to do in person. We're getting some kids where at our school, we're going to do the blended learning, where you can choose virtual or you can choose in person. But for whatever reason, if you're wanting to do any extracurricular that has practices or rehearsals like football, volleyball, band, they're letting them do that. So like virtual learning, but then like after school they can show up for band rehearsal, which I'm like, 50-50 on, because it's like if you're worried about the coronavirus and then you're doing like a contact sport,
Yeah.
it's like, but at the same time, I want those numbers.
Of course. I mean, it's a brand new program. It's hard enough as it is to start something up, and you just have that added weight of starting something up during Rona, and then you on top of that, brand new teacher.
Yeah.
So, what's it been like, man? Just getting out here during, like, you had to move out here during this time. Luckily, you moved into a place that you knew somebody.
Yeah.
In Evan, shout out.
Shout out to Evan Simmons.
Yo.
Gang. So you had that one little advantage opposed to me and Evan, who just flying out here big solo. But yeah, what's this experience been like, dog?
Dude, it's been wild since I got the job. Full disclosure, I got accepted for the position back at the very end of February. And at the time, I was a server at a nice dine-in movie theater.
Oh, nice.
Which the tips were pretty steady, pretty bumping, because when you go to that place, you know you're going to drop that money. And I was also a substitute teacher, and
Okay.
I was doing the double duty, probably 70-ish hours a week. I'm just a workaholic.
Yeah,
like
man.
That's just how I am. But I was using that to save up money so I could move over here.
Yeah.
Coronavirus happened. I got furloughed from both jobs and ended up having to bite the bullet just like, the 6 or 7 million Americans and go on the unemployment, which saved me. Like,
I bet.
I would not be right here, if it wasn't for that. So once I did that, everything was golden. Moved here at the very beginning of July. It took me a full day to move, and then the very next day I was starting at the high school.
Really?
And, no students involved, but it was taking instruments out of boxes because they were brand new.
Putting everything together.
Putting together all of the director podiums, whether that was for choir, theater, orchestra, like just everything. What else? Inventory, just like with the whole charm system. Art. You know how many art supplies there are? It must have been 50 trips to just put everything into the art room.
Really?
And it was only band staff because they didn't want a whole lot of people because of the coronavirus.
That's
and
fair.
It's still under construction.
Yeah.
All 3 people total were just moving everything back and forth.
Dang, man.
With minor help from the fine arts director.
Okay.
Which he's in the band world too, so I got along with him.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so far, seems like a pretty healthy team.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't know this going in, but they are monster teachers from
Really?
like the 3A programs. Like, shout out to Craig George. He's a percussion director.
Yeah. Familiar with the name. I don't think I've met him, though.
He was, before this job, he was the director of bands at Cameron High School, and they have gone to state marching finals like 3 or 4 times in a row.
Jeez.
I think they got second or third for like honor band stuff. Like, just an incredible program. And then Bobby Ure again, he's made it to state 2 or 3 times consecutively as well. So like I didn't know I was going into the marching realm like that. And I don't have a whole ton of marching experience. Like I've done the whole field tech gig just like everyone else.
Hopefully everybody else.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Got everyone. Knew a couple cats back in the day that almost like refused to do it, and I was very confused. I was like, the worst thing you can do is it adds another tick to your resume, but I don't understand why you're like refusing to go out and trying to find the gig.
I guess if they're trying to do the elementary or middle school route, I guess, but like anything helps, man.
Yeah, man. Just even at base level, it's just getting experience in front of kids.
Yeah.
You just need to do that. It's part of it. Like, no matter what level you're teaching, you're going to be teaching children, so might as well get practice at teaching children.
Not to get on my like soapbox about that, but like,
oh man, that's what the show is.
There are so many educators that didn't even work a day in their life, whether it was like the fast food flipping burgers gig or like the teaching experience. They're great musicians. Most of the time they're doing DCI all the time, and I have no beef with DCI, but I'm just saying they they do the music stuff, but then when it gets down to the teaching stuff, they're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Maybe this isn't for me. And it's like, if you just had any sort of working experience or any sort of teaching experience, you would have either like adapted and became an incredible teacher because you have that knowledge and that musicianship, or you would have realized a lot earlier in your career, like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. I'll do chemistry or I'll do business.
I think I had a couple buddies that was the case for them. They just got into the classes, and then they got it like 1 or 2 years in, and they're just like, I guess I don't really like band that much.
Yeah.
I'm out. And, I would rather that happen than get, it took me 7 years to get to the end goal. And then if I didn't like it, that'd be awful.
Don't even think about it, dude. You made it.
I made it, yeah. But that's the instance for a lot of people, and I feel for them. That sucks, man. That sucks to go through all that, go through all the rehearsals individually. But you're right. I think it's really important for everybody to have some previous not teaching experience as well as teaching experience.
I mean, it just helps with like basic communication skills. Dude. And like it, especially with like those like fast food jobs or retail jobs in particular, because you're working with people of all walks of life. Like it came from like high schoolers that just wanted to save up money for college to people in their 70s where it's like, yeah, this is how I pay the bills.
This is it.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm curious, what was your first gig?
Like
first work job. Yeah.
I was a shoe sales associate at Marshall's.
Just straight ahead shoes at Marshall's.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was a...
Yeah, like I was in charge of the shoe department, but if they needed more people on cashier, I was
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
My first gig was Whataburger.
Whataburger?
Yeah.
That's right. We talked about
That's
that.
a sweet gig.
That's a solid first gig.
It was a good time, yeah.
50% off?
Yeah, 50%, yeah. 50%
That'll do it.
Yeah,
That'll do it.
That's it's almost worth it.
Yeah.
Sorry, but what were you about to say?
I don't even remember, man.
Just talking about Marshalls and the shoes.
Yeah, just you would think it'd be an easy gig, but when people try on shoes, they'll put them in different boxes, and I have to check every single box at the end of the night.
Yeah.
They'll take shoes, which I experienced. Like I would open up. It would supposed to be like Converses or something, and I'd open it up and it'd be like sandals. So I guess people just walked
off.
Switch. Yeah, the switcheroo.
I can't say I'm surprised. At the end of the day, it's Marshall's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, my first gig was my first time working super stock. It was in lawn care and landscaping, and then did some construction gigs, and then my first like legitimately paying job as far as like federally legitimate
on paper
was a restaurant down in San Antonio called Donnie's Chicago Eatery. And I first got hired as like the prep cook / dishwasher. It's because I was supposed to do like real minimal hours, but then I think a week and a half in, the dude that they had as the cook, they found out was stealing money from the register. So then I quickly got bumped up, and I was the only cook for the restaurant for a couple months.
I feel like that's how it always happens. Like they always tell you like, oh yeah, the work will be super easy, the hours will be like flexible up to you, and then like something scandalous happens, or like someone walks out on a shift, and then it's like, all right, you're it. Would you like to be the assistant manager? That happened to me at Arby's like so many times.
Really?
I worked on again, off again at Arby's for 3 or 4 years.
Why Arby's, man?
We have the meats. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. It was like a job I could get away with. Like there were a lot of things I could get away with. The service was subpar.
Yeah.
And the amount of customers that we would get, especially like I was night shift.
Yeah.
Sometimes I could just sit in the lobby for like 45 minutes and then we would get a customer.
Jesus Christ.
So I was fine with it.
Yeah.
Like Like the pay was steady. I think it was like $9 an hour.
Okay, you can't be mad about that.
Yeah, I mean for a fast food job, it's I mean, and
did you guys ever get a rush at Arby's? Like,
is that such a thing?
Ever a rush at Arby's?
Like sometimes you'd get a lunch rush.
Okay.
Okay.
You would never get a dinner rush.
It'd be a little sad if you got a dinner
But
rush.
like I worked the night shift, so I would start at like 5:00, and we'd have like a small rush from like 5 to 7, and then 7 was just immediately dead.
Wow.
Like we could have turned off our lights and no one would have cared.
No one would have noticed.
Yeah.
Man. So yeah, see, not the case for me at that eatery.
Oh yeah.
It was I mean, privately owned, and it was a brother and sister that had opened it up, who also, the sister was like this real estate tycoon in the apartment business, and she owned like 5 apartment complexes in San Antonio. And San Antonio complexes ain't like, they real, bro. There's like 30, 40 buildings per complex.
Yeah.
And she's running all this as well as this eatery, and like the brother was just like helped her with whatever she was like. I'm starting this up, brother would come through. Starting this up, brother come through. But they were both Middle Eastern folk from Chicago, so it's just like angry people.
Yeah.
That are always disappointed in no matter what you did.
Did that hurt?
It was so stressful, but god dang, I learned so much from them. I didn't learn this until I worked at Domino's. Well, I didn't hear this phrase, but if the assistant manager would joke about it, he was like, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yeah.
But they didn't say that. It was just like, why are you not cleaning right now? I was like, because I just cleaned everything 2 hours ago, and we've had one customer. Oh, well, do it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go mop the front again for the 3rd time. It's 3 p.m. We opened at 11. Whatever.
Yeah.
It was good, though. Learned how to clean a single toilet restroom, like so a men's and women's, for 45 minutes each, because I had to.
Wow.
Yeah. I think some of my OCD, my deep-rooted OCD, comes from those two people. So shout out Nate and Amy. But yeah, that's when I like first found out about just like a lot of the Middle Eastern languages. Well, maybe it was just because they said it like in a Chicago accent. Like imagine a Middle Eastern language, like I can't even think of any off the top of my head. Like Hindi, that's
You have Arabic.
Yeah.
Urdu. That's the language from Pakistan.
That's right.
And,
I couldn't tell you which ones they spoke.
Good job, Evan.
You're welcome.
What did I say? That's the religion. Ah, man. Bro science over here. But just imagine Arabic, just already, just kind of like it's similar to German, just very like pressed.
Little aggressive.
No matter what, just because like the articulation of it. And then you throw the like Chicago accent of like, no matter what I'm saying, I'm greeting you and I'm happy to see you, but I'm yelling at you. Yeah, so I'm just washing dishes and they're like yelling at each other, and we'll call it Arabic for right now. And I'm just like, am I going to get fired today?
Just cleaning.
I might get fired today. Then I'd walk out and Amy would say thanks. I was like, all right, I didn't get fired. Cool. All right, see.
Just sweating bullets all the time.
Hopefully I have a job tomorrow. But yeah, man, it's weird. There's so many things I learned from all those kind of nonsense teenage, early 20s jobs, man, that I think can't be replicated otherwise.
No, they're all exalted experiences where you
Shout out.
yeah
Shout out.
Where like it can't be replicated, and your experience isn't going to be the same as little Johnny that's doing the same exact thing elsewhere, and the people can't be replicated. It's just an incredible experience, and you're meant to work. You're not there to have like the best time of your life either, and I people don't understand that, and I don't know, but yeah,
it's not always supposed to be a good experience. You're just supposed to
it's an experience.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be an experience.
I mean, just like jobs here, like your first job might not be your best job. Going to the teaching field, mine happens to be incredible already.
It's a really solid gig out the gate. Well, I mean, I think all of us, at least on the teaching side of things, I can't I can't complain too much.
It's been good. Like
Yeah.
like we didn't get like horrible jobs.
Yeah, like some of the homies that have those just their head director doesn't let them do anything, micromanages them
Yeah.
completely. I'm not gonna drop any names, but we had a buddy who I think he made it 3 months in,
Yeah, just about. And
just about,
They
and
wouldn't let him teach.
yeah,
like,
he just
at all.
didn't teach.
Wow.
He just became like the assistant to the head director, like not like the
Was
band assistant. He was like personal assistant.
Yeah.
To the head director.
That's what student teaching's for.
Yeah, but this guy, yeah, he got out of that gig though. He got a much better gig. So shout out to our boy. Again, don't want to call anybody out, but
Oh, wait, do I know him?
No.
Okay, I'm thinking of someone else that we both know that had the same exact experience too.
Yeah,
Which
I mean-
I guess I'll tell you later.
Okay.
that is an experience for
Absolutely
a handful of
and
people.
for your guy, was that his first job?
His first job.
And that's always like the scary part for these experienced directors. They're like, oh, I don't want to give you too much at once,
Yeah.
or I want you to observe a whole bunch to see how I do things, and then you can start. But it gets to a certain point where you're like, y'all are paying me money
Yeah,
to like
to teach.
to
like
do a gig. Let me do the gig.
you thought I was good enough to do the gig when you hired me, so why
Yeah,
not
and-
let me do the gig?
And there was full disclosure at the very beginning. Like,
Yeah.
you knew I was a first-year teacher. Like,
I wasn't hiding on anything on my
Yeah.
resume. If you didn't catch that, that's on you, big dog.
Yeah.
Like, read the resumes. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I don't want to say it's a common experience, but I think every year I can kind of think of at least one or two people that just had a super rough time at that first gig because of X, Y, and Z, and I feel bad for them, and I'm definitely grateful for the opportunities I have out here in Temple. So at what level, because you're a 4A, so
Yes.
I'm kind of curious because, I mean, Evans, for all intents and purposes, is operating at a 6A level. What is different about the 4A gig? As I want to know about, like, separately in a normal society as well as currently during the Corona times.
from like a music perspective, so these kids are at these middle schools where before this school was even invented, they were going to a 6A program.
Gotcha.
So the bar is already set pretty high.
Okay.
But now, when it comes to this all-state level at a lower track, they're probably just going to dominate, if I'm being real. Like,
Yeah.
knock on wood, if Corona doesn't intervene with anything in regards to, like, UIL contest and sight reading, or UIL state marching,
State marching,
or
state region. State
all region.
Yeah, it's a little redundant
or like
statement.
all region
Yeah.
of any sort for like the individual players. Like, they're going to do really well because the standards are set lower for this like lower track.
Yeah.
But in 2 years, we're anticipating to go to 6A.
Be that 6A program. So
It's kind of like a weird situation where it's like, normally things shouldn't be this good, but things are going to be this good. And as far as anything else academically with the school, I'm not 100% sure on how things are going to change in comparison. But just with what the fine arts director and the principal have said, like, we're all kind of on that level where we're teaching to that growth.
okay, so you're coming in with the 6A mindset because
Yeah.
that's where they were coming from, and then you're in, like, you got to keep that mindset. It's because right now you're just functioning with freshmen, sophomores, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been really tough just because they're super young. They don't like, we have sophomore leadership, but even they don't even necessarily know what to do yet.
They got half a year.
Yeah, they keep on coming up to me and they're like, "Oh, Mr. G, like, can I tell these people to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but next time don't ask me. Like, just tell them,
Just do
like,
it because that's what you're supposed. Yeah, that's interesting, man. I didn't even think about that
And,
leadership side of stuff.
just as far as culture, we're trying to do everything different in comparison to the high school that a lot of them have known.
Yeah.
Like the incoming sophomores. And so this was like a freshman thing that happened a few days ago because we're rehearsing as well in the mornings. We're doing indoor stuff for now, and I think next week we're going to start being outside. But they would wait for our field techs, or like if I was teaching a large group, they would wait for us to come in and tell them to unpack their things, which is a very like middle school thing in my opinion. But even some middle schools like start that like tradition or habit where it's like, you do not need me to tell you what to do. And so I had to nip that in the butt where I was like, I got this high school job to teach high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like, please have your things ready. And as soon as we start at 8 o'clock or 7:30, you're just ready to go.
Ready to go.
And so just them being so young and like 60 to 70% of them not even having like any sort of high school or marching band experience with zero leadership as far as like upperclassmen. Sometimes they just have no idea what they're doing. And we have to instill that in them early, but they have no sort of leadership to like mirror what we want.
Which is a good and bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, you're creating that culture, and that is both exciting and a little stressful.
Yeah, especially just being a first-year teacher.
Yeah.
Like I let the head director do his thing, and I take my mental notes on what he wants and how he wants things, and then replicate that or enforce whatever he wants. So it's weird.
I wonder which one's harder, to create the ideal culture from the jump or to turn a culture around.
Probably create a culture, because you turn a culture around, you have those freshmen that you like those whatever freshmen you started with, they have about 4 years of those kids still know what it's like with the old culture. So you have about a 5-year turnaround when it comes to starting a culture. You have like that's the culture from that first year. Like you have those kids that were ninth graders, but as far as like culture, they're pretty much ready to go for a restart.
True, but also like what I'm thinking about is
like the creation of all that.
The creation of it, but then also like if you make the wrong call.
Oh yeah,
and that's what becomes the norm. It's like
you can start some tradition that ends up terrible.
Yeah.
Because you thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, and then but it's one of those things that you kind of had to like let happen, and then it happened, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean,
that didn't work.
Teaching is a bunch of mistakes and learning from those mistakes. So like even if you start on that theoretical like clean slate, that doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect in the long run. Otherwise, we'd have these perfect band programs everywhere where there's like a new school, and that doesn't happen.
I think that gives me a little bit more anxiety, like the idea of starting something, because I just like the like, because I know how to function with like, okay, I want this to happen eventually, so I need to get blah 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 set up to eventually where it turns around, and then it's like, what do you mean? It could happen. It just does it. You sure? I don't. What? Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has its advantages and its disadvantages. But I'm on the jazz side of things, which is what aside from marching band, but jazz is what I'm mostly focusing on, because that's like the curriculum, and that's like the realm where it's literally just me.
Yeah.
Like the head band director,
Really?
I've talked to him about it, and he's like, oh, we hired you for a reason. I don't want anything to do with that. Like,
wow.
it's all you. And like, it is a blessing and a curse, because sometimes I'm like, am I able to do this?
Yeah.
Or like, but it's been dope, and I'm already preparing for us going virtual if that's is like the end all be all.
Yeah.
And like especially with jazz, there's just so much you can do. There's like historical components you can do. There's like improv exercises where they can send in recordings. There's transcription projects where they can like listen to a solo from like Miles Davis or something and just write it down and submit it. The sky is the limit when it comes to stuff like that.
All of that can be really beneficial. And this is what I was thinking after you said that jazz stuff. It's like I have the ability to do whatever I want I have the ability to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that when you put the jazz stuff online, that I don't know why I'm able to digest that better than I do like normal band stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's more. I think it's more like you get to kind of study it more rather than like in band it's like play it now.
That's
Like if it's online, you get to kind of digest it, and that's the one thing I'm looking forward to when it comes to the online thing is teaching jazz. You get to give them more time to like experiment, and they get to
figure it out
instead of like big band where it's like we got to play a concert next week.
Sure.
So.
And, dude, I promise, if kids listen to jazz more than they actually played it,
Yes.
they would be better.
Yeah. You talk to any like professional jazz musician, rock, whatever it is, they're just like, what's if you could give advice, and the one requirement for everybody, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna say just listen more.
Yeah.
And that's such, and this is my issue with that statement, is that people aren't ready to elaborate on the statement afterwards, because it's like, just listen more. What does that mean? You know, a little 7th grade kid is like, so just like play music in the background while I do homework. It's like, no, man. It's like you have to sit there with the intention of like, this is just as if you were gonna sit down to do math problems. You're gonna sit down and just listen to the music. See how many different instruments are in the piece. See if you can tell the difference between this trumpet player and that trumpet player. Just all these things that I don't think that enough people talk about after they make the statement. Listen more.
And I tell, like, Evan has probably heard me say this 4,008 times, but jazz is a language. Like, I compare it to Spanish, French, German. Like, it is a language, and if you have taken a foreign language or ASL or whatever, they always tell you, oh yeah, like, I'll assign you this homework, but if you can just either listen or speak some Spanish for like 15 or 30 minutes a day, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
And that'll help you retain everything. For me, I'm just saying, man, check something out. Like, I already have this thing called Album of the Week that I'm going to assign kids an album for the whole week and make them write a paragraph about what they found out about it.
That's right, something.
And yeah, and the reason why it's a paragraph is because if I make it a page, it becomes more of an assignment and not like, oh, cool, I get to like listen to this like John Coltrane Giant Steps album or something like that. And the kids need to find a hero or like find a voice.
That's true.
So I don't like, I try my best to steer them in the right direction, but if they love like a video game jazz ensemble and that's their motive to get into this genre, and then they learn about like all the Ellington stuff and all of the older stuff, fine by me. Some people are a little wishy-washy when it comes to stuff like that, but if a kid gets their foot in the door in a non-traditional way but then discovers everything else and becomes an incredible player, I don't care.
Yeah, it's really like whatever speaks to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because listening to Duke Ellington for a modern kid isn't exactly the most. I don't know. You can't really get into that as quickly as you can. Like the 8-bit, is it the 8-bit big band?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they can listen to that like all day.
Yeah, because they love Mario
Zelda,
Bros.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because it's something that they already know that's just arranged differently.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, a lot of kids are already accustomed to remixes, chopped and screwed, these different styles of the same song. So if you just do that in a jazz band setting, like, why is that so bad? It's and a lot of stuff has been coming out. I don't know if you guys, it's on y'all's Facebook as much as it is mine. Like a lot of my vocalist friends were circling this tweet about. It had to do with classism, but it was in the sense of, if you think that it's artistic and technically brilliant to do a melismatic whatever from 1500s, and you think Ariana Grande is trash, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're saying that because Bach wrote it, it's better. It's like, no, man. It's like Ariana Grande is eventually able to do that because Bach wrote it. Cool, acknowledge that, but it's a run is a run.
Yeah.
And they're both super clean. So what's the issue here?
I also just hate how people have to like marginalize that as well, because it's like, to each its own. Like, it's going to be impressive to someone. For someone, it's going to be their thing. And if it's not your thing, don't pick it apart and be like, well, this is why this sucks and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but like everyone else in the world, like, they're not wrong.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I think me and Evan have talked about it a couple times, just the pretentious nature of band world and just musicianship as it is. It can get really dicey. But I definitely think as people like us become older in the profession, it's kind of normalize the different genres and the different avenues of music. And to circle back around to the listening idea, I didn't really get that until I got into the salsa program.
And that was your foot in the door.
That was my foot in the door, absolutely. But just again, the idea of listening and stuff like that, because was it Pete Rodriguez or Sammy Lopez? Either way, I think they both taught me at different levels the same stuff to an extent. And they're well, okay, that's what it was. Pete Rodriguez, shout out. He was like, "You don't know anything about salsa? Cool. You're gonna play Guido. This is the pattern, and then you're just gonna sit in the band, and we're gonna do 2-hour sets every month, and you're just gonna figure out what the hell is going on around you. Keep up."
Yeah.
And then when I was taking lessons with Sammy Lopez, he was telling me like how they do it in the culture down there, and you start playing at 2-3 years old. They give you sticks, and you're not necessarily playing like a full-blown instrument, but they give you sticks, and you as the 3-year-old are supposed to go, thanks bud. I don't know who is out here in Temple with that engine.
Someone who's really, really cool.
Yeah, bro.
He's the coolest.
I wish I was him.
Don't get me wrong.
He's the coolest guy in Bell County right now.
It's a great sounding engine, but you live in Bell County, dog.
But see, here's the thing about that. We can talk about this later. But I think he wanted this.
Oh, he for sure does, because he does it when he leaves and when he comes back.
He wanted this conversation to happen.
Probably.
He wants everybody to know that he's the coolest guy.
He won.
He did win. Can't let him win.
Can't let him win. It is a good sounding engine though. I've been getting more into my car aficionado stuff. Anyways, I digress. But like the 3-year-olds will go up and they'll just play like 60 notes on the side of the conga. And then they, you just do that for 6 minutes, and then it's like, okay, when you're like 7, all right, time for you to move up to maracas. They set it up like that because you eventually become more important. I don't know a better way to phrase that, but just you become more important to the ensemble as you age, but also it makes you appreciate the kid that is playing on the side of the drum, the kid that's playing maracas, the kid is playing bongo.
It's like you're giving them that like foundation where
exactly.
It's like get the feel right, and then you can do something a little more like
a little bit more intricate, and then a little bit more intricate, and then by the time you're playing conga, you're 16, 17 years old, everything that's going on around you, so you're aware of what it is that is supposed to be, what it is it's not supposed to be, and how you can intermingle between what's right and creativeness. So when I acknowledge that, I get just kind of really stressed out and bummed out with how we do standard sit-down bands and how we go through that process. And me, sitting down with Connor really kind of made me revisit those thoughts.
Yeah. Because we don't really do band that way.
We don't
understand like what you're doing, and then not understand what you're doing. Do what we're gonna do
before you understand what it is you're gonna do.
I don't know.
Always give them the why.
And I think that's the best we can do with the setup of education that we have is the making sure that you're always giving them the why and what it is that's important, where it came from, why is this way. And I think a lot of that comes from either A, lack of preparation as an educator, or B, lack of humility in saying, like, if you're not going to give the kid an opportunity to ask you the question that you can't give an answer to.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of educators have issues with that because they don't want to seem like they're dumb or they don't know the topic. But for me, it's always like, you're not going to know everything, bro.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, just the other day, I had a kid ask me, like, a question, and I was like, I don't know, but I'll let you know tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's all it needs to be, is just be like, dog, I couldn't tell you. I'll see what I can come up with tonight. I'll let you know tomorrow. If you find something, let me know.
Yeah.
Because then they get a sense of ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get a sense of ownership.
I had like many moments where I found out something, like in that moment, like I find out something new. I was like, oh, that's why that's called that. Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Like, I mean, like, instead of like, telling them that, you can tell them like, hey, we're all figuring out music. It's a cool thing to figure out. That way,
it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, that way they want to figure that out too.
In a much more aggressive way, I tell my kids that everybody sucks. I suck. That's why we practice. It's okay to suck. You're gonna be fine as long as you know. It's okay to suck, but you can't be okay with sucking.
Yeah.
And again, that's an important distinction that I think not enough people talk about. But anyways, again, I digress. From here we are. Soapboxes for days. Like I said, that's all the show is, man. Just talking, getting on our high horses.
But going way back, my foot in the door when it came to jazz, like and Evan can probably relate to this too, but like the very first 3 years I was in high school, I wrote myself off as the classical sax player. Like, oh, I can't do jazz. I'm just the classical guy. And then I had a head band director that was like, oh, no, you can do jazz. You'll be great at jazz. And I played like the worst solos in the world. But he never told me they were bad.
Yeah.
I just remember like looking down in the audience and seeing his face. And it was like the biggest smile and like the head shakes and stuff like that. Man. He probably thought it was like the worst thing in the world. But he was giving me that validation to continue and continue.
For sure.
And then I'm also a very competitive person. And I think they just discontinued this, but there's other things like it. But there's this big countrywide competition that you can do every year as a high schooler called the Grammy Band Jazz Band.
Really?
And you submit like 10 minutes worth of like improvisation and like playing stuff. And if you get picked, you got to play at the Grammys with this band.
Damn.
Yada yada yada.
Some real killers in that group.
Yes. Some monsters.
I had no idea that was even a thing. Yeah. Again, here we are learning something new every day.
But I just remember at the very end of my junior year, I was watching those videos of people my age being monsters, like sounding like they were 40-year-old men from New York, like that have done it for like decades of their life.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, I'm a sophomore. Like they're just like a normal kid.
My name's Michael. I'm from Connecticut.
Yeah.
Here's my solo.
Yeah. And then they're dominating. And so that inspired me as far as like where the bar was and what the limits of playing are. Because I'm like, oh, if Jeffrey Dongle, I almost said Jeffrey Dahmer. If Jeffrey Dongle in Connecticut can play this monster solo as a sophomore and I'm about to be a senior, then I need to get to work.
I need to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. So.
Dang, I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah. The most sobering experience I had with someone younger than me being better was your boy Austin Zhang.
Austin Zhang.
He's this kid. He's still up in New York.
Yeah, he's in New York still.
Yeah. He
hopefully.
When I was a senior, he was a freshman.
Oof.
And he just came and like dominated the entire jazz room. Me and Austin Nessler were in that room, and Jessica Goodrich, we were all in that room. Didn't even know until later, but he was like, I was like, oh, I need to work a little bit harder if a freshman shows up and just destroys
Humbling,
everybody.
man.
And
Humbling.
that year, that freshman was the first chair in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So don't feel too bad, Evan.
Well, then. So he was the guy.
He beat me. He beat Evan. He beat all of us.
Damn. I think our boy Mikhail, I think he's very much on that pathway
He can
to being the guy.
He can work, man.
We got this freshman. I think his main thing's alto, right?
Yeah. His main instrument's alto.
His main instrument's alto, but we got him playing tenor in the top band, and I think he's probably gonna be in the top jazz band as well. And the kid's I think 6'1",
Okay.
basketball star as well.
Yeah.
But he's taking lessons with Marcus Duran right now, and the kid, like, first day, Duran was like, all right, so what do you want to do? He's like, I just want to play. Duran was like, all right,
Yeah.
word, we can play, but, like, let's go. So I know Duran's pretty excited to have him as his, like, next upcoming, like, project child, because
That's a good way to put it. Because, like, I have a couple myself right now, and I didn't know what to call them. They are my product children.
project children. Yeah. I mean, every kid that you teach are going to be your project in some capacity, but
absolutely.
I think every kid's going to be at different levels of project, and I think that's an important distinction. You know, you should have your baseline be really high up there. Like, don't just be like, all my kids are going to be, okay.
No,
like,
you should, and I wholeheartedly mean this, but you should never give up on a kid.
No.
Never, ever. I don't care if, like, they're coming into high, because we're experiencing this right now. There are kids in high school right now, either freshmen or sophomores, and we're working on this hard show music, and then I'm like, oh, like, play a B flat, and I have a baritone kid that goes, can you show me the fingering? And I'm like, open, bud, open.
There isn't one. Just blow into the horn and you're probably going to get it.
Yeah.
It's that conversation is a hard one to have, I think, because as bad as it is to say, at some point sometimes you do have to cut your losses. And I don't even mean that as in a negative sense. Like, we have this issue at Temple. I don't know if it's the same thing over in Belton, and I don't think it'll be an issue for you for the first couple of years in Lake Belton, but we have a huge drop off between sophomore and junior year because we have so many extracurricular programs that just by the time you get to your junior year, it's like you need to be fully invested in one of these things. You know, a lot of these kids, by their junior year, they finally made varsity, so their varsity schedule gets really, really heavy. High academics, all the CTE programs, all the fine arts programs. By the time you get to your junior year, it's like you have time for maybe one other thing. So, you know, what is it that you're gonna do? And it's a really hard time for a kid to come in and be like, yeah, I'm not gonna do band next year. And you can try and convince them, and sometimes you will get them, but I think a majority of my time they made that decision their freshman year.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to convince them otherwise.
We have like a similar issue right now, or at least it's more of an issue on my end, where how many electives do the kids get at Temple High? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think you can get up to 4.
Yeah. So that's how I was too when I was in school. Like, we had 4 electives. Well, as of right now, they have 3.
Really?
And I was like, well, where's this 4th one? And they have this thing called team time, where it's like an in-school study hall for an hour and a half because we're doing block scheduling.
Christ.
And so it's on every other day. You get team time for an hour and a half. And I have to start this school year with a jazz combo because I don't have enough kids to do jazz band. And in all of the groups, I did this presentation. I brought my horn and played some like like cool stuff so their eyes would get wide.
For sure.
And like I had so much interest for it, but then when I talked to kids individually, they were like, "Oh, I can't. I only have 3 electives and I'm a freshman. I have to do band. I have Spanish and I'm in cross country." Or like, "Oh, I have band. I have ASL because I need to get this foreign language out of the way. And I'm doing this technology thing that I need to start now because this is the prerequisite and I want to do it my senior year."
Yeah.
And if we didn't have this team time thing, I would have at least one full jazz band with freshmen and sophomores, which is already like a feat, not getting all the grade levels. But yeah, it's really annoying.
Dang, that's...
And I'm hoping they dissolve this team time thing when we get more grade levels, because we're going to get bigger. There's going to be multiple ensembles of everything.
Yeah. It's just going to take away from a lot of opportunities for the kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it off the top of my head. It's like in-school tutoring to an extent, probably, or just in-school opportunity to make sure you get your homework done. But also, do it at home.
Homework. Home.
Or just be the overachiever like me, where
Homework's at home. Homework's at home.
Where you ignore the current lesson and you just do the homework because you're kind of a shit student. That's mostly what I was in high school when I look back at it. But, I still graduated. I was almost top 10% of my class. So.
Oh, major shout out.
Yeah. I was literally one person out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very depressed. 496 in the graduating class. The 50th kid got to be top 10%. I was 51.
And look at where you are now.
Yeah.
No,
here we are. I was number 51. One of something like 30 kids to go to college. Mm-hmm. So, shout out.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an overachiever. And I get into a bunch of conversations with kids because the counselors, I mean, they're doing their job, but they make it a lot more like these upper academic stuff. They make it seem a lot more required than it needs to be.
Yeah, they scare them into it. It's
yeah.
like, oh, you want to go to this school? Well, why aren't you doing AP everything? Yeah,
AP everything. You have to do the IB program. You have to do this TSI program where you can get an associate's at the end of it. But most schools aren't going to acknowledge that you have an associate's degree. And even if they do acknowledge it, they're only going to give you half the credits. So you wasted 3 years of your high school career getting these college credits that they're not going to acknowledge
or accept or any. Yeah,
I mean, some of those schools, they we're having kids kind of pick their career in the 8th grade.
Yeah,
they're having to figure out all right, how's my next 4 years of high school looking so I can go to college? Like, oh my God, you're figuring that out when you're 14. Could you imagine picking what you picked at 14?
What was my goal at 14? Where was I? So I was in Florida, soccer team, and band. Maybe it would have been food. Maybe. I would have done the
what about
food?
Track. Okay. I was like, I was thinking about food when I was 14.
Yeah, maybe I would have been on like a culinary track, but yeah, that would have. I could not imagine being at some of those programs where they are requiring their 8th graders to.
And some of them, like very few, like I would say 5, maybe 10% of them truly do know what they're going to do. Like they're those kids where you're like, oh yeah, they're going to be president or like something like, those overachievers where like
be super important.
Yeah. But for like the 90%, like no, like I didn't even know I wanted to be a music major until my senior year of high school. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm in band. I do it because I'm good at it, kind of.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in it. Yeah. I had no intention of being.
And then things changed when you went through the program.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I'm also hard pressed to not let kids do multiple things, because I was doing so many dang things when I was in high school. I was band program, dance program. I was in college prep courses. I was in the robotics team. Like I was doing all these different things because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was just like, these things are pretty cool.
This is fun.
Let me try this out. And I don't think had I done all those, I would have eventually ended up to where I'm at. But it just sucks being on the other side because you know that the kid has potential in your thing, and you don't want to persuade them one way or the other, but you also trying to make them acknowledge that, like, hey, you're really good at this. Like, you should do this.
Yeah.
You know, without being like super in their face about it. I don't know.
You play bassoon, and I really need a bassoon. We're doing some Granger stuff next semester.
I promise it'll be super dope. I'll give you all the love, but also if you mess it up, I might throw a baton at you.
Yeah.
But also I'll give you all the love because you're holding it down on some Granger. Yeah, dude, teaching's weird, man.
Yeah.
Teaching's super weird. So, anyways, dog, so I've known you all of a month and a half? Maybe?
Like a month?
A month, give or take. What do you do other than band?
Well, if the coronavirus wasn't happening right now...
With the assumption that the world's not in shambles.
Like I developed this love of traveling the past year or two. Like just this year alone before the virus took effect, I was in New York and New Orleans.
Right on.
All in January. And then like things obviously got worse. But I love traveling. I'm like the type of person that would like go on a road trip and just explore things. I'm really big on supporting local businesses. So, like, I'll go to that mom and pop food place to get stuff as opposed to, like, just doing the normal chain every
Denny's.
day. Yeah, and Denny's.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The episode that comes out tomorrow, well, it would have been, what, 13?
13. Well, what do you mean, nah, to Denny's?
Episode 13, we get into the importance of Denny's. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you check it out. But
I just want to know.
Yeah. No.
Denny's never hurt me. Denny's a great guy. It was never my thing. I don't even think we had one in Frisco, and if we did, like, it just wasn't the thing.
There's not one in Frisco. I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think so. I just didn't grow up with it, man.
That's fair. Well, okay. Well, with that being said, we'll get back to your traveling stuff. But now I'm curious. I might just ask this to everybody from now on.
Yeah, that's a pretty good, like, judge a character.
Judge a character. Okay. Denny's, IHOP, Waffle House. 1, 2, 3. Rank them.
So, I like the ambiance of Waffle House.
Okay. I don't know if ambiance is the right word, but...
Is cigarette smoke and people throwing up ambiance?
It has character.
The constant tension of that there might be hands thrown.
Like, oh, man.
Someone's going to get hit really soon.
Like, and shout out to Tanner Dieters. He put me on.
That's a name. Say it again.
Tanner Dieters.
Yeah, I'd have messed that up if I was his teacher.
He put me on Waffle House because we had one near UNT. And I think every single time we went, someone like stole food or like did something where like it was a spectacle and possibly police had to be called. And I am such a people watcher. So stuff like that, just like those dramatic scenes where I'm watching someone like yell at someone. I mean, that's the worst thing in the world, but I will watch it.
It's terrible, but I love it.
Yeah. And then if I had one or two more Denny's experiences, Denny's would probably be next because I really don't like IHOP, but I don't know Denny's well enough.
Okay.
You know what? I've had so many bad IHOP experiences that Denny's will supersede it, and then IHOP will be at the bottom.
Okay.
I actually have an IHOP story right now ready to go. This was not planned.
This was not planned.
No, but
never is. We never really. Everybody thinks I have these grand schemes of conversation. We're mostly just.
I mean, it says in the script right here, IHOP conversation 719.
Yeah. The only time that sometimes me and Evan will have an outline, but I think last week we had an outline and we didn't touch it.
We completely avoided
Avoided it. I was like, I'll eventually roll into it. And then the conversation that I started rolling with was like, this is better. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, and that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. So, anyways, IHOP.
This happened, I guess 6 months ago. I went late night with some coworkers when I was serving, and I ordered the appetizer sampler.
Okay.
It really, really good, really basic thing. Can't mess that up.
It's hard to mess it up, and yet oftentimes they do.
30 minutes rolled by, no big deal. Like, we're all servers, so we know how it goes. Like,
yeah, man.
We get it. And I get my food, and it is, like, covered in hair. Like, visibly covered, like...
Not like a strand.
Yeah, you can't make this up. And, like, before she even left the table, I was like, ma'am, can you get this remade? Like, do you see all this hair? And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And she leaves, and then the manager comes, and he goes, so there was hair in your food, huh? And I was like, yeah, they're going to remake it. Like, I'll still pay for, like the food I'm getting. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I'm a server, too. I totally get it. It happens. And he goes, well, it's just so weird because no one in the kitchen has long brown hair. And I was like, well, neither do I. So, this was like 1 a.m. So I might have been like a little stern after that comment. Yeah. Because he was like implying stuff that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, sir, I'm going to give her a decent tip. I will pay for the meal. This isn't a heist. I'm not shysting you right now. I just want my mozzarella sticks, my fries, and my chicken tenders with some honey mustard.
That's all? That's all I want?
That's the American dream right there on a plate. But no hair. I just didn't want any hair.
The American dream is just a brown mess. Is that what you're
Yeah, just a fried mess of brown.
Your words, not mine.
God bless. So, okay. Waffle House,
yeah.
Denny's, IHOP.
Yeah.
I'll respect that. All right, we can still be friends. Anybody that tells me IHOP is number one, I can't trust them.
No,
bro.
especially after that marketing gimmick where they were bringing the burgers.
IHOB. That burger is actually really bad. So
I didn't even try it.
I did. It was a mistake.
You should feel bad about it.
You should only get breakfast at
IHOP. And even then.
And the appetizer sampler.
Okay, the appetizer sampler.
Again, I think you can get an appetizer sampler somewhere better. But I digress. I for whatever reason, I just have this vendetta against IHOP. It's never been like, I've never had like a bad experience, but every time I go, it's just been wildly mediocre.
Yeah.
And I hate spending money on wildly mediocre food.
Yeah.
It's also why I hate Chili's.
IHOP was actually the last restaurant I ate at before coronavirus.
Really? That's really disappointing.
I came home from Temple and it was like really late, and I was like, oh man, I might as well stay up and get IHOP. So it was like 3 a.m, and I went to go get IHOP, and the next day all the stuff was closing down. It was a good time.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's a special place in my heart for IHOP for this one stipulation. It was the only place in San Marcos that was 24 hours that you could get coffee at. So it was like a low-key secret to where during finals week, you roll up, you just tell the server, like, bro, I got $5 for you. Just give me coffee.
Yeah.
Don't bother me. You see the water going low, you see the coffee going low, just fill it up. I got you on $5 for a tip. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And it was great. But other than that, wildly mediocre. Okay, so favorite place that you've been?
In Temple?
Traveling.
Oh, traveling.
We'll get into Temple stuff later, but I kind of want to circle back to this traveling thing.
Honduras was pretty cool.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went there on a cruise 2 or 3 years ago, and that was like a culture shock for me. Like, I remember our tour guide, we were in this like like sketchy white van. It wasn't like a excursion that was through the cruise. Like we just happened to like see people with a van, and we were like, all right, $20 American. Like, all right, we're all going in. And
Bad idea.
Yeah, because we all get in and we go to this gas station, and they're about to take us to this beach.
Okay.
But they wanted us to like get the essentials, like cerveza, like whatever your drink of preference is.
Whatever you want to do, get it right here.
And one, it was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Like dirt cheap. Like $5 for like these huge cases and whatnot. But the crazy part is that everywhere you went, there were militant people with like straight up shotguns or AKs like securing the perimeter, because if they didn't do that, like an organization or a gang or what have you would just straight up take it over.
Yeah.
And I just found that pretty interesting. And when we got on the beach, there were just several dogs that like either trained themselves or were trained by owners to just beg for food everywhere they went. And they had like collars, but they looked really dirty. Like it's such a beautiful area, but like it's just different, man.
Yeah.
It was eye opening.
Yeah, most of Latin America will do that to you. Just kind of, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's my majority of my culture, but it is not always pretty.
Yeah.
Some comedian has a joke about like that's the longest drive ever from the airport to the resort. You just see like all the poverty of the.
Yeah.
I think it's like Chris Rock. He says like as he's driving through, you just see all this impoverished area, and you finally make it to the resort. You're like, oh, this is what I showed up for.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Like, yeah. But the rest of it is kind of hard to.
It's rough, man.
Hard to see.
It's rough, and I don't want to do a deep dive on this too much, but it really bothers me when people like are talking about communism, and they're just like, look at Cuba and how great it is. I'm like, you obviously have never done any history on Cuba, Bubba, because it's not that great. As in, most of it sucks.
Yeah.
You have to have a license, like, and amongst other things, you cannot form groups in the street. The only people that can are people with licenses to talk about baseball.
Baseball specifically?
Baseball specifically. And you have to, it's a physical license that you have to have, and you have to apply for, and not everybody is qualified, but you have to have a license to gather in the streets to talk shit to other dudes about baseball.
I wonder how you qualify. Income, number of kids.
I mean, it's mostly old dudes, so I have to imagine it's.
It's like part of a season ticket thing.
I'm not too sure, but I mean, when they're controlling, I think it's something like $8 a day that you're allowed to get for your job. Or, your restaurants are only allowed to serve X amount of people and X amount of food. It's just like, it looks pretty because it was well kept after the freedom. And then there's no freedom. And now it's like the freedom happened, and then it blew up, and it was great, and everything was pretty. And shout out Cuba, blah, blah, blah. And then it shut down, and they've just been kind of keeping it up ever since. But yeah, it's not the best.
I actually had a friend that traveled there 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And she had to like contribute to the tourism, like to small local businesses, and she had to show documentation and proof that she did that, or else she would have been in big trouble for visiting Cuba. You have to have like legit reasons to go. Yeah.
But that being said, I definitely want to go. Love Cuban cuisine, love the music. Obviously, like, I'm deeply entrenched in that culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of Latin America. It's pretty rough.
She told me that with her like Airbnb, like there weren't doorknobs on all of the doors, and like the power would just straight up go out, and there was no Wi-Fi, which that's like definitely a first world problem thing, but like that's just where they
Something
are.
to acknowledge, man. Yeah. But anyways, okay, so Honduras. So you kind of touched on it, but what's your main motivation for traveling?
Evan can attest to this. I'm definitely just like a people person. Like I love getting to know everyone and anyone. So just learning about different cultures as well as learning about different people. So just those two. I feel like they're like cliche, but those are the two.
No, man, there are a few reasons to travel, and it's gonna be one of those things. I know me personally, it's food. Like 100% of my travel is rooted in food and finding just different spots. So like me and Evan went to Houston when they gave us the thumbs up, and we thought that everything was straight before they quickly shut it down 2 weeks after that. But I was like, what's something I can only get out here that I know I can only get out here? And we went to that seafood joint, and it was A1, man. Get some crawfish, get some just that the Louisiana style food that they're able to get away with because Houston's all of 4 hours.
Yeah, it's not too far away from Louisiana. I don't think.
But yeah, great stuff. And then, in that same week span, I went to South Padre Island as well, and I was like,
dope.
And the people I went with, it very, very different from me in the sense of they just like they'll eat whatever, and they don't really have too much of a preference on it. And every night they kept bringing up just like, do you just want to get like Domino's? I was like, no. Why would we don't get me wrong, Domino's is my number one fast food pizza, but we're in
shout out Domino's.
If you want to sponsor us, holla at your boy. But I was like, bro, we're on an island where you could see the boats fishing. I'm gonna get a fish.
Yeah,
I can understand if you are not into fish, but also most restaurants that have an extended menu. Like let's dive away a little bit, and then it's just they would be like, okay, and then we get there. Can I get chicken tenders? God damn it!
Gonna get a cheeseburger.
So Long John Silver's is what you're telling me.
Ugh, God.
No, nothing.
It just makes me it. I understand that people have different interests in different things. But I'm just like, man, like why not just try something? Just try something new. Maybe you're not gonna like it. Maybe you do. Either way.
I mean, I'm definitely a picky eater, but I'll give anything a try once. But on my short-term traveling, I definitely care about food. Just like I was telling you earlier about the mom and pop shops.
That's
or
right.
like just like the non-chain places. Just yesterday, I got Italiano's carry out.
Yeah.
It was really, really good.
Yeah, I had Italiano's last night as well. Actually,
yeah.
Italiano's is the place.
Yeah, it's definitely the local joint. I was gonna try Bobby Lupe's.
Yeah, but Bobby Lupe, I think. Yeah.
It's over by the HEB, like
just
down 31st from Italiano's, and their menu looks super good, but they just didn't deliver. Excuse me.
No.
They didn't deliver all the way out here, and I had a vested interest in the UFC fights that were going on. I was like, I'm not gonna leave. So Italiano's it is. But yeah, man, I've talked to, I think, Kelsey the most about this, but just like I grew up watching a lot of food channel shows. Of one in particular was Anthony Bourdain's either No Reservations or Parts Unknown. Are you familiar with either of his shows? Well, unfortunately, I think he recently died, and I think there's some legal issues that are going along with it.
with like the show.
Yeah. So right
shows.
now, I think only 2 seasons are on Hulu, but I highly recommend you check them out because what I liked about Anthony Bourdain, and they've been trying to fill this hole for a long time because he was an older gent, and you could kind of tell that he was kind of like, it'd be really cool if I wasn't gone 200 days a year doing stuff.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to find somebody to kind of fill that travel food show, but they haven't been able to get anybody because they don't just have his way of articulating the culture and the ideas and the food and the cuisine and why it's important to this thing. He touched on a lot of like I did some later research after it, but he does an episode on Cuba, and that's where I found out about the licensing thing.
Yeah.
And then after, and this is what I liked about it, is because he talks so highly about the culture that it makes you want to go do your own research on it afterwards. And there's episodes about Japan, and he goes to this soba shop, and he's like, "This is all this guy does. He's not even a chef. He is a soba noodle chef. He wakes up, makes the noodles, goes home. Wakes up, makes the noodles, go home." And it's just like, and he is able to articulate the beauty of that simplicity and how great the food is an outcome of that intention and that mindfulness of the craft. And that's kind of, not even kind of, like 100% why I am so for trying different food and going to different cultures and learning things about things and learning more things about than the face value of said culture, right? Mm-hmm. Like Cuba, really easy to kind of, and again, I'm just going to kind of harp on this one because we've been talking about it. But Cuba, the music, baseball, like that's face level. You can get away with those two things, and even if you did a deep dive on those two things, you could get a lot out of the culture. But like, why not learn about the auto industry and why there hasn't been new cars in there since like 1990s?
Yeah.
Or why the buildings look the way they do, and because it was French colonization, and then that's why the buildings all have that French aspect to it. Like, learn those different things, because that's alludes towards why the music is so good. That alludes towards why baseball is so important, because that's the only outlet that they have. Or you find out things about like the sports academies where they go to like playgrounds, and the coaches are like, "Oh, this 3-year-old looks like he's gonna be like, he's pretty stocky. He's gonna be a wrestler. We're gonna get him into the Cuban national wrestling team, and we're gonna take him to this house, and his food is gonna be the amount of food and the amount of shelter he gets is gonna be based off of how well he performs."
That's why at 3 years old.
Yeah, and they move to these buildings, and then you just move up in the ranks. And I found out about that from my vested interest in the UFC. Shout out Yoel Romero. Dude looks like an action figure, a god.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Pull up a picture of Yoel Romero so he can. YOEL ROMERO. Yeah, look at this kid.
Oh my god. You're gonna put that up in post, right?
I highly recommend, if you've never seen Yoel Romero, to anybody listening or watching, like, go look him up, because that's a reminder of that's a human being.
What a monster.
And you know what he fights at? 185. Like, that's how much he weighs in at. He easily walking around at like 210. But I'll digress on that. But he grew up in that national Cuban Olympic team, and he was, he's talking about it, and he's like, yeah, if you did poorly, you ate once. If you're at the top of the chain, you get to eat 3 times, and you get a full-blown mattress and your own room. But if you're in the middle of it, you get a like a little rollout mattress and like 2 meals, and you're sharing it with a bunch of dudes. It's like, oh, that's why. Like, yes, it is really bad. Like that's not a healthy thing to do, but also makes a lot of sense on why the Cuban national wrestling team is as good as they are.
Yeah.
It's because your life actually depends on it.
Yeah. That's wild, dude.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how much I know about Cuba. But again, it's large in part because two things that I really care about: fighting and Anthony Bourdain. Just kind of, I've had the reasons to get in vested interest into the country and learn about all these different things.
And you've never gone yet?
Never gone yet. I was planning on going, actually, I think this summer or maybe at the end of the year with Norm, because he goes out there every now and then. Norm Bergeron, shout out, the percussion director over at Temple College.
Bergeron?
Yeah, Bergeron. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like Wayne. But
Yeah.
No relation to Wayne.
No relationship, I don't believe. But he's gone. He went, I think, last year, and he was just telling me about like all of his experience. He was down there for like 2-3 weeks with his wife, and I think he spent like $500 total.
Wow.
On everything. Yeah, like on being like the Airbnb, the food, all the places that he was staying, and all the things that he was checking out. He spent like another $500 on instruments, naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like mad cheap. But then unfortunately, Trump had put in place or lifted the embargo, the trade with Cuba. So we're actually not allowed to go to Cuba right now. So you have to do get a visa to go into Mexico and then fly from Mexico to Cuba.
Wow.
if you want to go. A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of red tape.
But even before that, I feel weird not going to the homeland of Puerto Rico. Like,
oh yeah,
I feel like I need to go to do that.
Yeah, that's easy, right?
Should be.
Yeah.
I think currently, I don't know how easy it is to get in there, but also, I mean, Puerto Rico is just in a rough way. They have been for a really long time. Mm-hmm. Again, not getting too much into it, but America has, even though it is not a colony,
it's a territory
of the United States, they don't actually recognize them as a territory of the United States, in the sense of there's no tax funding that goes into it.
They really just get the short end of the stick.
Yeah, they get the short end of the stick, and it's like they hemorrhage money from them, and they've just kind of been under.
This is a cool website. It tells you how many days Puerto Rico has been without power. It's 1,061 days, 9 hours, 27 minutes, and 17 seconds. That's a fun stat.
Anyway.
It's a big stat, but it's a fun stat.
So can you do me a favor and look up when Hurricane Maria was? Because I think I'll put $1,000 on that was the last time they had power, because Hurricane Maria just put them like underneath water.
Yeah.
And this isn't to say that all of Puerto Rico is without power. It's just like the grid has not.
2017, so that's about right.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
So since Hurricane Maria, they have not fully fixed the infrastructure of just electricity, excuse me. Just electricity in that country, and it is supposed to be a territory of the United States, and it is not being taken care of. And I've got a lot of feelings about that.
Yeah.
But alas. Anyways. So what are some other places that you were like interested in going? Assuming that the world isn't on fire.
I still have never gone to California ever.
Really?
And I feel like that's just kind of like an American staple. Like you have to go to California at least once. Go. Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
I've kind of sort of been to Mexico, but I haven't like truly experienced Mexico. I've kind of just gotten that like tourist area, like the pretty part that you want to see that tourists all go to, but I kind of want to be engulfed in, my own culture.
That's fair. It's a little stressful down there in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
As in a lot of stressful.
And then definitely like Europe. Like everyone always wants to go to Europe. I just remember in 9th grade watching this 30-minute video on why Denmark is the best place in the whole world. Because like the crime rates are low.
Yeah.
The unemployment's incredible if you have to go through unemployment. But like the unemployment rate is crazy low too. There were just tons of documentation and like videos of people from there just being like, oh yeah, we don't lock our doors. Our kids play in the yard. They're like 3 years old, yada, yada. Because the crime rates are low. Like it's just a great place. So I want to go there someday.
I feel that. Now, Evan, check me on this, but I think Denmark also had started a program to fix the meth issue, and they got it completely out the streets because they started to have these houses in which you can go there at any point in day. They're only open from so and so to so and so, but you can get as much as you want, as many days in a row as you want, but you just have to be there to use it, and you can't leave until you're like off the trip or anything like that. And I'm gonna I know I'm gonna screw this up, so Evan, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, so basically it's a methadone clinic where they like you said, they have a certain amount of the drug that they can use, but they have to use it there, and it becomes a less taboo thing to use it. You just go there and use it, and you're not if you overdose, they can revive you.
Yeah, they can.
It's way safer.
It's
to do it that way.
It's such a better program, and because a lot of times they will, like, people are able to kick the habit because whether it becomes like an inconvenience or like you just kind of realize that like it was like maybe the lifestyle that you enjoyed about it or whatever, but just because they made it less taboo, they made it less like, they didn't fix it with a Narcotics Anonymous. They fixed it with like, no, just take the drug and you'll probably figure it out,
or
just stop doing it.
They didn't just immediately take him to jail with like mass incarceration. Like, oh, you have like this drug or this drug, like, okay, we'll put you in jail forever.
Yeah. And it's been especially good for underage people because this stat is saying like kids from the ages of 15 to 16, that rate has dropped down like significantly because if they are using it at the time, they have those safe spots to do it in where the lifetime use doesn't become like as often.
Yeah.
So yeah, it becomes a lot more easier to. I don't know what's a good word for that.
I don't know what a good word is either, but we'll go with easier. But they created safer. They created a society in which it is not stressful if you're using drugs.
Yeah.
There's no tabooness. There's no guilt. There's just like, hey man, you got an issue. Like, we'll help you out.
Yeah.
Instead of like you said, like, hey, you got an issue. Go sit in a jail cell for 25 years.
Yeah.
Deuces. Yeah.
Which that could be, a part 2 down the road.
Ah, God bless, man. I mean, at the sake of getting into politics, Kamala Harris, thoughts?
Yeah.
General
thoughts?
Don't have any thoughts.
Zero thoughts.
Zero thoughts.
Cool.
I don't think any of us are as like informed as we informed enough to talk about it.
I think it's interesting that I was just like listening to this earlier. Apparently, the left is still coming for her. Somehow, they managed to make her racist.
Sure. I believe
it's really impressive, and man, you got to do some deep dive because they had to go into like her lineage, and so she's from Jamaica, and apparently part of that lineage is like her great grandfather was like the number one slaveholder in Jamaica, and I'm just like, okay.
There's 1.5 million other things that we could say about the other guy, the other dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really confusing. And then I've got my own mixed feelings about it because I know that she was in the Attorney General for California, she locked something like 1,900 people up for marijuana charges. But then also I heard that she skirted a lot of like low level charges. So it's kind of, I know I shouldn't be talking about it because I haven't done my proper research, but that's why we have Evan right here doing the research for me. Shout out to the homie. But it's just like, man.
I think we've all been pretty busy just because marching camp has started and this and
just
that.
Education in general.
Yeah, we're focused on getting our content online and whatnot. So we just haven't done our research.
Yeah.
She had 1,900 convictions for pot offenses.
So that's super neat.
Yeah.
And double check me on this one. I think it was her as well who was threatening to put single mothers in jail if their kids weren't attending school.
That's
because in order for schools to get money, you need the attendance. And so if you weren't getting the attendance, how do you get the attendance? You bully people in to making sure their kids go to school. Hey, well, surprise, if you're a single mom, you got other things to worry about, like making sure you have a goddamn house.
That, and just like kids will, like, especially at a certain age, if kids don't want to go to school and they're down that path, they're going to find any and every way not to go to school.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she had an anti-truancy program. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, I think I've said this before, either on the podcast or just in person. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Mm-hmm. Yes, kids should attend school.
Yeah.
Yes, kids do statistically become better people if they have any sort of education. That is well-known fact. Prosecuting the mothers because the kid's not going to school is probably not the best way to go about that.
And it comes from like a lack of understanding, because someone way up that was super privileged, that probably had a maid and a tutor and yada, 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 is thinking, oh, well, I grew up with all this privilege, like you're just bad parents. Why aren't your kids attending schools? And it's so much more than that. You have to think of everything in other people's shoes.
Yeah.
And not enough people do that, man.
And plus, and I don't know if I talked about it on the show with Connor or if it was when we were at brunch, but she's coming from California. The California public education system is ass. Mm-hmm. Nothing compared to Texas, right? So a vast majority of people in California are going to private schools. So even just that alone, you're going to have this misconstrued view on what it is that the education system should be. Like, yeah, if you came, it makes sense if it's not as big of a deal to prosecute mothers if they're not attending the private school because they're paying for it.
And let the educators, or like the previous educators, make those decisions, or at least ask for assistance when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
just as simple as that. Hey, maybe, ask a couple teachers.
Yeah, exactly.
About if you're going to make some calls on the education.
Teachers know about teaching.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works. Shout out to our dude who runs TEA, right? Not going to put any bad on him, but I think his education experience is one-time substituting.
Oh.
And he controls all of Texas education.
Also, this is kind of like an ad, but if you have AT&T and you are an educator, you can get 25% off your whole plan.
Damn.
Yeah, so I saved $15 or $20.
Thanks, Polk.
Yeah.
Shout out to AT&T. If you guys want to be a sponsor as well, holla at your boy. Trying to get that paper rolling in.
I'm full of like little tidbits of information. Also, shout out to Sonic for being Sonic.
For just being Sonic.
There's so much advertising placement in these podcasts that you don't even know.
Yeah.
Subtle.
Well, okay. So he brought up Sonic. Let's get his opinion on the conversation that we're having. Does Sonic, like, how do I phrase this?
Does Sonic exist in any realm of like competition with other fast food restaurants?
That.
Like do you rank Sonic in anything, like best burger, best breakfast place, like
I like,
or what else? What else is in Sonic's realm?
Because we talked about Sonic, we did. And I think that's the question I was thinking. What realm is Sonic in? Because we were like, okay, best fast food burgers, Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, best pizza joint, all these things, and then we were just like, Sonic and Sonic.
I don't really know if it has anything that it's comparable with, but it's obviously known for like how they do their service with their car hops.
Yeah.
And it's known for the best drinks. I can't really compare it to anything else. But it's definitely known for its drinks.
Yeah.
And tots. If you want to go there, because like not everyone has tots.
Are they the only tot joint?
I wouldn't say they're the only tot joint, but
I can't think of
Where do you get tots from other than Sonic?
I can't really think of any other.
you can get hash browns anywhere, and sometimes hash browns are just tots.
Right.
That's fair. Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
hash browns are
those are breakfast tots.
circle tots.
Yeah,
I haven't had those in a while.
Well, boycotting Chick-fil-A because they hate the gays.
but
But
I have some small beef with Sonic where they don't pay their car hops.
oh yeah, they don't.
They pay them like their servers, and they expect us to pay the wage. But I mean, I still tip just because I have a conscience and a soul. I'm not happy about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
because like the car hop that's giving you the food didn't take your order. The only contact you get in communication is them handing you the food.
Yeah.
They didn't prepare it themselves. They just grabbed the bag and left.
Took it to you, yeah.
And usually I park close to the building, so it's like a 10-foot walk. And
not super difficult for you to get the food out there.
and then the food is overpriced because they put everything in the fryers. Like you got the corn dogs, you got the tots, and you have simple burgers, chicken, onion rings.
Anything? Oh,
No.
They got a grilled chicken.
They grill the burgers and the chicken, I think.
And I'm gonna assume they grill the hot dogs. Maybe. Or are they dirty water dogs?
Yeah, but I say that those taste pretty watery.
Yeah.
Those might be dirty water dogs.
But what I'm getting at is it's simple food, and it like in the grand scheme of things, it's dirt cheap to make, but they charge you so much, and then you still have that expectation of helping that server get to minimum wage.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, man. A lot of people. I didn't find that out until I think my senior year of high school, and obviously that's a lot sooner than most people. I'm not surprised people listening that are saying, "What?"
Yeah, and they don't advertise to tip your car hops either. So
not a single advertisement on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a homegirl that was a car hop, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't get paid anything."
Yeah.
I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Yeah, I get I think it's like $4 an hour."
If you're lucky. I had friends that were like, "Oh yeah, I make $3.50."
Jesus Christ. And
Well, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this, since both of you guys were servers. Well,
I was a server.
You were a server.
Yeah.
Tipping in general. Do you guys Because I was looking at this. I forgot this restaurant's called Hive, where they don't have. They just pay them minimum wage.
Yeah, they just
or
pay
higher.
them as they're supposed to.
Yeah. Do you think tipping is a thing that should still exist? Because I've also heard the argument of it's service, so it should be good, but I don't know.
Oh well, people that say that deserve to get punched in the throat because you don't deserve anything, sir.
This is true.
You could cook the food yourself. I got really aggressive. Far more aggressive than I anticipated. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I know a couple of restaurants like that. What is it? There's not Joe's Crab Shack, Shrimp House, something house, seafood house, sea house.
Bubba Gump Shrimp House.
No. It's there's a joint in San Antonio. That's a chain that same way I think everybody gets paid like $9.50. And it's just like, no, man, just don't tip them because we actually Sea Island. Shout out to them in San Antonio. I never actually ate there. It might be good, maybe. But shout out to them for, treating their workers as they should be. But I don't know, man. I think, obviously, I think you should definitely tip. And you should never tip less than 18%. I go back and forth on that.
I'm a big believer in, like what people tend to argue where it's like, oh, well, did I get the quality service that I get? Like, usually you will get a 20% tip if I had a decent experience. Yeah. But I am mindful where it's like, oh, if you're giving me a crappy attitude and my food came out wrong like 5 different times, and like you didn't seem like you wanted to be there, or like I will calculate, like you will get $1. Like, that's just who I am because, like, I value the quality of service that I gave to my guests.
I also acknowledge that, and in the sense of, like, if you hustle as hard as I did when I was serving, I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah.
If you're not even doing the bare minimum, bruh, it's like I did the job for a year and a half. It's not that hard.
And I'm understanding where it's like, oh, one thing happened in the kitchen, like, they got the order wrong, it wasn't you, like, that's fine. Or maybe it was you, own up to your mistake, that's fine. It won't affect your tip. I prefer communication where it's like, hey, I was really busy, didn't even put your order in. It's in now. I just told the cooks, like, it's ahead of everyone else's order. I love that transparency. Yeah. And I would seriously give that transparency when I was a server.
For sure.
And they loved it.
Yeah. I think it's
they just don't want the BS.
You just got to be honest with yourself and the people around you.
But as far as tipping in general, I have love and hate with it because it truly is a way for corporations to pay their workers less. But at the same time, there were days where I made like $300 in one shift. Yeah. Where it's like, that was money I was not going to get if I had an hourly wage.
For sure.
But there are also, and I know a lot of people don't do this, but I'm a big believer in just, if you give me above and beyond experience, whether I'm at McDonald's or someone like somewhere that actually tips, I will give you a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Like, I just went to Bush's for the first time a couple weeks ago.
Right on.
And
love me some Bush's.
The guy that took my order, the whole experience at Bush's is weird, where they like walk and like
it's a little odd.
But I loved it. And he walked me through the menu. He told me to get the Bush baby sauce or something like that, and like some serendipity.
The serendipity salt, yeah.
Yeah, and he was telling me like the ins and outs, and he's like, "This is what you have to get," yada yada yada. Yeah. He was cracking some jokes. He gave me my order within like a minute after that conversation. I gave him a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Because he worked for it.
Yeah.
So that's just me personally.
I think this is my view is, I wish it wasn't a requirement to like make sure that they are able to eat.
Yeah.
But and with that being said, I wish it should just be a representation of the work that they do.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, if they're balling out and they're taking care of you, they're giving you all the stuff, I'm gonna throw you a couple bucks all day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw you a couple bucks extra in the current climate because I'm gonna throw you a couple bucks to like make sure like, hey, you got some money to pay your bills, and then I'll throw you a couple extra bucks because you went above and beyond your job. Yeah. If you suck, I'm just gonna make sure that you're able to eat.
Yeah.
And then I'm not gonna feel bad about it. But if you're killing it.
But it's also just so weird that it is your responsibility as the customer to make sure someone gets food for them or their family or pays the bills. And it's just like a weird thing. It's so weird. Thing.
Like I said, I wish it wasn't the case and you just giving people tips as a representation of who they were. Yeah. I don't know if that would ever change. Or even if people would want that to change. I don't know. I got a homie that's working at a steak joint right now, and he's getting $100 tips every, like a couple $100 tips every night. Like, yeah. I don't want to take that away from him. Like that's some pretty gangster money when you're still in college, or even as a normal person.
A couple of years ago, I was working Christmas Day because it was a requirement, and I guess it's a tradition for a lot of families to go to the movie theater on Christmas. I never knew until I started working there. I just think it's weird. But
different strokes, man.
This family of 4, I had them. They got their food out perfectly. I even did a check back to make sure that the food was good. And they were like, oh, it was excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I can get for you? Oh, no, we're fine. I give them the bill. They look at the bill, and it's like $80 or something. And they're like, oh, no. The chicken was just way too salty. The fries were underdone. No. And I was like, I was like, ma'am, you ate all of it. And I asked you if it was good, and you said yes, and you ate it all. And she was like, well, I'm not paying this much. And I was like, yes, you are. Merry Christmas. Like, I was not going to let that slide because, like, one, it was Christmas, which, like, that's like a double-edged sword where it's like, oh, they had a bad experience. And it's like, no, you ate all your damn food.
No, you have a bad experience at the beginning, not at the end.
Yeah. But, they paid for that meal. I didn't get a tip, but it, like, felt good. That was my tip. Making sure they paid for the meal that they ate.
Make sure that they were responsible for their actions.
On Christmas Day, dude.
That's gross. Just gross, man.
Just people are like that, too.
Blows my mind. Yeah, and again, it's a circle all the way back around to where we started. That's why doing these jobs are important.
Yeah, and
to get before you get into, not even before you get into education, just as a human being, because you realize, like, oh no, people can suck that much.
Yeah, and like, going back to, like, education, you are going to have those parents where you're like, oh my gosh, you are the parents that if I served you, you would have stiffed me on Christmas Day after eating your food. You get parents like that. That's who you are as a person.
all
the kids. I love all the parents.
Yeah.
First year teacher. Things can change, but
as of right now.
But, like, it just goes back to that idea as well, where, like, when you were a kid, you thought every adult was on top of it all the time. You looked up to them. You asked them questions, and they gave you the answers. Like, you looked up to every single adult, whether it was your parents, your teachers, Uncle Jimmy, some guy on the street. They were an adult, so they had things figured out. But the older you get, the more you realize that everyone's just faking it. Yeah. Everyone's faking it. Your parents had no idea what they were. Well, no, I'm not going to say that, but like, you know what I mean?
They didn't have as much of an idea as you thought they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird how that happens when you grow up. Well, Big Dog, any final thoughts, final revelations, final shout-outs, anything you want to say to the kids?
I already did.
Information?
I already did all my advertising. I should expect a paycheck from AT&T shortly.
Dude, I mean, it was on my show, so AT&T,
I'll get you
let me know.
I'll get you a cut.
No. You need a separate check. I want my own.
Oh, okay.
Because that way it goes on the business credit card, and we can start buying that fat business credit card, otherwise known as my personal card. But no, man, not even any like advertisement things, but just like any final thoughts.
No, other than just keep on listening to this podcast. It's dope.
Well, I appreciate you, Big Dog. Thanks for coming out, man, and hopefully we can kind of line up our schedules to where we can hang out again. Yeah, it's been a while.
Sometime this next weekend or something, man.
Sounds good, man, brother. All right. Everybody at home, thank y'all for catching us all the way through. Be easy. Peace.